Sterility testing is a closed concept while using the Steritest system. There's a variety of products, but what's really nice about it is that it allows you to have a workflow that's similar to how the drug is actually used. And that's, critically important. You want to make sure that it's as close to what you have now when you're performing the test, so that your results are mimicking what you have. We have devices, we have hardware, and we have media and rinse fluids. We also have services, and as I mentioned earlier, we have ways to help create protocols for you. Right now, we'll talk about the different devices, and as you can see, we have a large selection of devices. And how do you choose what you're going to use can be very dependent on the type of product you use. If it's a product with no antimicrobial agents in it, we have a blue base, which is very similar, easy to filter. If it does have an antibiotic, we have a red base, which has a different membrane. And then should you have a difficult to filter product, we have a green base, which is designed for solvents and ointments and moving that way. Our membranes are different than what you may see out there. We use a sealing technique as opposed to a pinching technique. This is really important as it helps the membrane become part of the unit and not just compressed. It allows us to use thinner membranes, which helps and facilitates in the filtration of your product. As we've evolved, we've improved our devices. We now have canister sets that have graduations from 25 up through 100 mil to help. We know that the drugs that are being tested are becoming smaller and smaller in volume, and it's nice to have parity when you're doing that. We want to make sure that you have confidence in all that you do. So our canisters are designed to be able to help identify and work the clamping, which you'll see during the demo a little bit later. And we know that many are using isolators, and the dexterity that we have with the isolator gloves is never prime. So as such, we've worked on having accessory bags that are easy to open and do not require scissors or anything to open them up. We've also began an evolution with our needles. I'll show a little close-up of that later, but our needles now have multi-functions. We're trying to address how different products are packaged differently, but you want the same membrane. So rather than now having to order multiple products, you can order just one. When setting up the device, running the tubing through the pump is always, did I get it right? Did I floss it into the right place? So now we have a line on the tubing to help you line it up, just to help make it, give you that much more confidence. We've also changed how the packaging looks. In the past, it was just a series of numbers. Now, currently, it's simpler with a small illustration as to how the device is supposed to be used. More and more information just to optimize and 1D barcode. So if that is something that you are moving toward, we're moving there with you. We've also worked on our boxes so that they're nice and simple, and the labels on the outside help it easy to identify what's inside, so you don't have to keep opening it up to see what's there. If you have a red base canister, there'll be a red bar to it. A blue base canister will have a blue bar to it, as in this one. Each of the canisters will have etchings on it that provide the catalog number, the lot number, the expiration date, and the serial number. And as you can see, what the person's doing on the box is those labels are peelable. So you can take those and transfer them over to your logbooks for great traceability, and you don't have to worry about somebody transcribing it incorrectly. Getting onto the hardware, we have 3 pumps based on your need and how it's going to be used. We have one that's for laminar flow hoods. We have one that's designed for isolators, and you can see how the body of the unit remains underneath the bench top of the isolator, which in this case is plexiglass. But we work with isolator companies so that these marry up perfectly to them. And we also have a unit that's called the Flex. This allows you the opportunity to put it in different places, and the primary setup is normally just for the isolator. That's the best setup. When we designed the pumps, we look at how our customers are using them. We look at how you're going to be using them day in, day out. It's not for a 5-minute test, but it's for the lab technician who's sitting there for 4 hours at a time. We want to make sure that this is nice and simple and easy to use, easy to get to. The low profile, as you can see over on the picture on the right, loads up the isolator and allows more testing to be done from a single run. We have a communication hub, which allows us, which is where the power comes from, but it also allows you to connect to your network. It allows you to put on some supplies, such as a foot switch or a sensor to your waist so that it doesn't spill out onto the floor, or a syringe support. We also have a pressure detection for our unit. This is really, really important. It's for safety. We know that if you've done many of these at some point or another, you may have seen that red cap pop off. Well, it scares the crap out of you, and now you have to search through the isolator to try and find it. We want to prevent that from happening. Cracks could happen in the canister due to the high pressure, and perhaps you get a false positive. We don't want that to happen. We want to create total confidence in the results that you're going to be getting. In addition to that, like anything else, we have accessories. We have a rack that'll help carry your canisters over. And with that, again, you're reducing the chance of them tipping over. You want something where they lock in. It's a nice firm seal here. And so we really do have everything that you need. We have the devices, we have the hardware, we have the media and rinse fluids. And from that, I'm now going to just, if you pardon me for just a moment, I'm just going to switch over and put it onto the camera so you can see the hands-on. And I hope this transition works over well. And there we go. So, hello, everybody. I'm Michelle Van Muschenbroek. I'm the one that's been talking virtually for the last little bit. We're in different situations, but I hope that you find this information useful. And thank you so much for joining us today. So just to show some of the features that we talked about up close and live, here's an example of one of our needles where you would take off the protective cap for one size, but we also have a limiting support so that if you don't necessarily need to use a long needle, you don't have to. This allows it, and it helps from the needle not to bend, which is really, really a nice feature, and it provides a lot of confidence for the user. And we talked about the line that'll go for the into the pump head to help make sure that you have it in the right place. And then we also talked about the accessories package, how easy this is to open. You can see that was just very simple to use. Now, we talked about the different. Is somebody just say they couldn't hear me? Okay, so we have a variety of different products that can be tested, whether it's in small ampules or perhaps in bigger bottles. For the simplicity of the test today, we're just going to use the bottle. I'm going to clean off my bench. So we have our area, we have our kit that we've chosen to go for our product. We have some rinse fluids. We have FTM and TSB. We have our canister set. Here's our pump. You can see that it's really nice. If you consider that somebody's in an isolator, everything that you need to touch is very close. Opening and closing the pump head is as simple as doing this. You can see the pump head engaging here. It just opens and closes. And we have the display here, which you can adjust for your own self. It turns as well as rises up and down. So I'm going to open up my case, keep this nice and tidy. I have to set this up into my pump. And as I mentioned earlier, we now have that line. So this line, sorry for the noise, but we run this into the pump head. And as you can see, you just kind of floss it in. There's a couple little notches on either side, which give you and registers a nice feeling for you. The tubing is lined up here on the right to that line, and I just simply close it. And why that we consider that to be important, you're working with an isolator, and the gloves are quite expensive, and clamping down on it, what we have found is that people pinch that glove, compromise it, and have to rerun the whole test. The needle configuration that I chose has a vent to it already. And what we're going to do is we pre-wet the membrane, we run the product, we rinse, and then we add our media. We pre-wet the membrane because that helps your product get through the membrane. It's kind of like having a sponge. When the sponge is hard and dry, it doesn't absorb as well. Same idea for a membrane. We want to prepare it. Now, in the event that you were doing a very small sample, when you run your pre-rinse, we would recommend that you stop before you've completely done a pre-rinse, and that allows for your product to come into the wetting solution and spread out over the surface of the membrane. Then when you finish, it's spread across as opposed to just one particular area. Now, in order to pre-wet the membrane, we're using fluid A in this case, and you can see that this has got a real nice septum. The rubber is designed to be soft, so it's easy to pierce. And to begin and engage the pump head, it's just a matter of turning this off and on. It's how simple it is. So we are going to pre-wet the membranes. Now, this is designed off of pressure. So the canisters themselves have each canister has a vent to it. So as long as product is filling up, you're not creating any pressure. So we have to cap it in order to create pressure inside the unit and then force the liquid through. So in our accessories package, which again, you can see is just opens up very simply. And I'm going to just move this down just a hair. So we clean that out. And I have these prepped and ready. And I'm going to put these onto here. Start my pump. And over here, I'm just going to stop it. You can see that the fluid is coming into the canisters and it's beginning to filter out. So the membrane has changed color. It's no longer white, it's now wet. And I've now finished everything of the wetting solution, and I still have a little residual in here. As the pressure finishes it through, dries it out, and now I'm ready to add my product. This is a nice area to just keep everything that's been used as your little trash. You've got this little container here, so you can use that. We're ready to do our filtration of the product. It splits it into the two canisters, and we're starting it. The unit is designed to split equally, and this is one of the reasons why you want to have, if you have a pump, you want to have it serviced every year. During that service, they ensure that the pump is operating correctly so that the product being run through on both sides is equal and that you're not getting a wide variety here. The pump speed can be modulated through here. When you are performing your test, you can see I'm not getting any bumps, any bubbles. You don't want the speed to go up so high that you're getting bubbles through your unit. If you wet the vent filter, it compromises the test. So you want to avoid that. If you have a product that has anything to do or any agents in it that cause it to foam, you clearly want to stay away from that. Now, we have performed our test, and we want to rinse any residual microbial agent, antimicrobial agent, off of there. So we're going to do a rinse afterwards, and in doing that, it helps prevent false negatives. Any antimicrobial agent that would be on the membrane would cause you to have a false negative, which clearly isn't a good thing. And the type of membrane you have with a lower protein binding will help facilitate that concern also. Whenever you're working with needles, try not to work with them in the air. Have your hand down, have the unit down, placed on the table. Clearly, this is the dangerous way, and you don't want to have any extra tests on your skin. So at this point now, we're prepared to do the rinse. Turn the unit on again. And I'm just going to take these off for just a moment, allow the rinse solution to fill up so that I get a good, thorough cleaning of that and rinse of it. And I put the caps back on. Now the pressure comes up. What happened in here, as I removed the cap, the fluid began to fill. and covered all of the surface as well as the surface of the bottom of the canisters. We finished here, and it is okay if you pump it just a little bit longer. This has a sterile filter on it, so all you're doing right now is just pumping sterile air. And we stop this, and now what we're going to be doing is we want to add our media. So we want to add 100 ml of TSB and 100 ml of FTM. So in order to do that, we want to cap the bottom, and we're going to remove the vent plugs. By doing that, it will allow the media to fill, and the plug will prevent it from going through. We also want to separate the two. We have TSB and FTM. In order to do that, we have clamps on each of the tubings, red and white, and this helps bring it through. We want to clamp ahead of the pump head, not behind it. If we clamp behind it, you run the risk of elevating the pressure inside the tubing and getting a false pressure alarm. Because what's happening is at that point is the pump is trying to push. It's a peristaltic pump. It's trying to push through, and what happens is the sensor will go off. So we want to clamp upside of the pump. We're going to clamp the red in this case. So by clamping the red, the solution will be diverted through the white tubing and fill up into the white canister. Make sure that we have the base on it. Remove the cap. Take our needle out, and this goes right back into it. And again, I'm not doing this in the air. I'm doing this off solid surface. And you can see over here that our FTM is beginning to fill up. And we should be finished here, and we're getting bubbles, so we can stop now. Great, so we've added our FTM. Now we want to add our TSB. The cap is off. We remove, go to the TSB. And at this point, now we're going to clamp the white, unclamp the red. This will allow for TSB to flow into the other canister. We've had questions, people say, well, what happens to the other line? Well, since we've clamped it off, nothing will go into the FTM except for FTM if there's any residual in that tubing. Cap is on the bottom, TSB, clamp properly, and we begin here. And now we can see that the next canister is filling up. And one of the nice features with this unit is right now I'm just running it on a manual mode where I'm pressing it and starting it. We have the ability to load programs. Actually, you have the ability to load the programs in for yourself. And this helps when you are training new staff, or if you're doing multiple products, your product can be listed on the top here and show you what you need, the canister set, and so on, and guide you through all of the steps, and you keep advancing to the next step. So we've completed our test, or we've completed so far. I'm going to open the pump head at this point. And again, you can see that it's very nice and simple. And now what we're going to do is we clamp off downstream of the pump head. and we cut and we cut. Now, at this point, this is what would go get incubated. Some people leave these dangling in the air so that it just looks like that. Other people will take the end and clamp it like this. If you had one of the racks that I showed you, you could put it onto your rack and you take it off, bring it to the incubator after having performed multiple tests. Now you have your little dirty tray. Take your tubing out, take your product, and everything else. Push that aside and begin your next test. So at this point, that pretty much covers the test. I'd like to open it up to questions if anybody has any. Has there been much going on in the chat room?
Yeah, we can't see you.
Yeah, Michelle, we had a couple challenges with the viewing, but we told people we'll send the recorded link out.
Oh, okay, that's too bad. Any questions or any requests or questions about the pump? There's definitely a way to, you can see that it's nice and aesthetically clean. The buttons that are at the front here, so it's easy to get to as opposed to reaching over the pump to get to the control unit. The pump head is removable, but you have to turn the unit off and then power off. You can't just turn the power off by a switch. It won't disengage and you'll never be able to get it off.
Hey, Michelle, we do have a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
What's actually in the kit in the blister pack?
In the blister pack, we have 2 vent plugs, 2 and 2 canister plugs. And so the yellow is for the base of the plug when you want to incubate. So it goes onto the bottom of the plug. It's just a pressure fit. And then the red plugs are for the vent to help plug that up and help create the pressure inside the canister so that it will filter.
Great. And then can you go over the canister colors and what they're for again?
Sure. So we have blue and red. Let me get. The blue canisters have an MCE membrane, mixed cellulose esters, and they are for products that do not have antimicrobial agents, pretty much all liquids. Because it's not the PVDF membrane, which is a lower protein binding. You would run a higher, if you had a microbial agent in it, you'd have a higher chance of it staying on the membrane, creating a false negative in your growth. So the red canister has a Durapore membrane in it, and we just identify them by the colors. So the red is for products that have antimicrobial agents in it, and the blue is not. You can help with remove your antimicrobial agents through rinse. If you find yourself not being able, because of the properties of your product, and you can't rinse that through, we have, I mentioned, a team that can do that for you and take your product, create an SOP so that you do not have to worry, and pretty much take the SOP designed for your product and put it into your books so that you have confidence in knowing that if there is an organism there, it's going to grow. It's not going to be inhibited. Very, very important. Anything else?
Was the teal membrane for viscous products?
Yes, the the green membrane is for viscous products. It is designed for ointments and so on. So it has a little bit more of um, a better chemical resistance when you're using perhaps say sterile IPM, which is a product we do carry to help put that in a solution so that you can filter it. We can help you develop that also. And yes, that's exactly what it's for. It's for viscous products. We have for standard liquids, the blue, products that have antimicrobial agents, and for hard to filter products is the green, so that you can add a harsher solution to help break down that ointment, that cream, and help put it in a solution so you can actually run it through a membrane. Because again, if you're doing a direct inoculation and you have an antimicrobial agent, all of that's going into your TSB or your FDM. So are you really getting a representative growth? You can never be sure, and there's always a concern. Wouldn't it be better if you can wash all of those concerns out by doing a proper rinse, and then knowing that if there's organisms, they're present on your membrane and they're not being inhibited by something that's in your product and designed to be there.
Hey, Michelle, Shayna asked
Yes.
a question that's this is a pretty good one. She said, can we send out a list of the catalog numbers for the different canister types? For the different red, blue, and green, I know we've got different varieties, right?
Yes, we do. Toward the beginning in that presentation, I showed this little picture that had all of the different canister sets. That's a wall chart. We can send out that that link and document to you. It shows all the different canister sets that we carry, along with the different pumps we have, the medias that we carry. So yeah, we can absolutely get that to you. Please make sure that we have your email so that we can forward that information to you. We also have a very good website with a lot of this information. If you want to get to it, you can do that also, but we'd be glad to get you the document so that you don't have to search around trying to find it.
Hi, I was looking to see if you have any blue canister videos online. I couldn't find anything to use for pre-filled syringes.
For pre-fills for syringes?
Mm-hmm. Pre-filled syringes.
Yeah, so we don't have one specific to that, but we can talk offline if you want, and we can go through that. We have canister sets that are designed for needles where they have a septum that you can insert the needle into, depress on the plunger, and then run it through. So that we do have a canister set designed strictly for needles. We also have a configuration that has a lure lock. So if your needle has a lure to it, you can just put it onto it and run it through that way also.
Okay. Yeah, we actually have some of them, like the blue ones from you guys, and then when we put the needle in the thing you were saying, what happened was sometimes the product was going back to the rinse fluid A, where we connected the main the needle. Would that be because when we turn the pump on and we're trying to inject the product, what happens is instead of filtering into the canister, some went back into the rinse fluid as well.
Okay, so what's probably happening is that you know how when we do the filtration and you're putting the unit in and you have the red cap on top, you may want to remove that cap, so that would get rid of any pressure buildup in the line, so that when you're putting your syringe and you're pressing your product in, there's no pressure in the line anymore. so it wouldn't push
Okay.
it back toward the fluid A. I hope that
Okay.
makes sense, but does that come through clearly?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually hoping, yeah, we'll chat offline. I mean, that's fine with me.
Sure.
If you can also, like, you know, if you have any links or videos or anything, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Timothy was saying he was going to set up the sales representative around the area to come give us a demo. That would be that would be good as well if it's possible.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, the demo thing the problem is like the pump is fixed in the isolator.
Yep.
And if the sales representative, we can't take him inside in the facility to show him because it's in a controlled area. So it would be
certainly. We can always bring a unit. We could always bring a unit for you to go through that, and we can see how you're performing the test. Ideally, what we would do is we would let you perform the test on some people call it the dirty pump because it's not in the isolator. We would watch you perform the test just in a laminar flow hood or in your on your kitchen table like I am here. But
all right, that would be good. I mean, yeah, we'll have to ask him to bring the pump too then.
Yeah, but we can bring the pump in. We can watch you do the test, and it might be something as simple as the plug, or it could be something else that we're seeing in how you're manipulating without actually seeing all of the tests. It's hard to kind of troubleshoot.
Okay.
This would be
because
an excellent
some
way
of the
for us
syringes,
to come in. And,
some of the syringes have the lower lock, but some of them have the needle attached to it too. So we cannot separate the needle. And I know we can use the pump, the blue canister for both the scenarios, but yeah, we were seeing, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be perfect.
So Michelle, we do have a couple more questions as well.
Sure.
Kristen asks maybe if we can mention sterile IPM real quick.
Yes, we talked about that briefly, that we do have the sterile IPM, which helps for hard to filter products, for ointments and so on. We provide that so that you don't have to make it and do it yourself. This is one of the nice things about if you use our products and you're using our media, you're using our canister, you're using our pump. If there's an issue, you call us. We're the specialists on these products, and we can help you for all of it on all stages. You can have confidence in knowing that it's just one stop. Give us a call.
Hey, Michelle, is it necessary to autoclave the black drain tray to avoid contamination?
It's not necessary. It's downstream, but if you want to make that part of your standard cleaning procedure, there's no reason why you can't. As I said, the unit is downstream. It comes off pretty easily, and you can see that there is a gap. Here's how the canister sits in, and there's a gap between it and the base. So there's liquid down here, but there's no chance of it coming up into the bottom of your canister.
Also, that redesigned drain tray was designed to eliminate or reduce as much as possible splashing from any filtration.
Correct. Yeah, it's nice and rounded with a channel down the middle. Any other questions? Anything else in the chat?
Not just yet. We've gotten most of the questions answered. Some stuff is going to be offline.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions and the chat seems to be fulfilled, I guess we'll call it a day. I hope everybody stays safe throughout all of this. I think this is about as far away as I've ever done a demo before. I'd like to wish you all health and happiness, and just stay safe throughout this time, and hopefully normalcy will come back soon. Always look to our website for any questions. Always please reach out to your sales reps and the technology specialist, the field marketing. We're here to help also. Please reach out to any of us at any time. If we can help, we'd be glad to. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.